And joining us now is the new Director of Education for the Toronto District School Board. There's Chris Spence, and welcome to TVO.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
In the chair. Well, the first question may be a bit odd, but let's try this. What do you do?
Well, I'm the Director of Education, but I really consider myself to be the leader of learning. I take great pride in the fact that my philosophy as an educator hasn't changed from classroom teacher to Director of Education. The only thing that's changed is that the walls of my classroom have now expanded to include more students, more staff, and more community.
Hundreds of thousands of students.
250,000.
You got a lot on your plate.
I do, but you know what? Got a lot of great people around me as well to help, and can't do it without them.
Well, you didn't take very long before, what's the right word to say? I don't want to say causing a fuss or causing a storm, but let's say you're stirring it up already, and I want to read what the Toronto Star reported in October on your idea to have all-boy classrooms. Suddenly, the Star reports it's all about boys in Toronto public schools. Weeks after taking the reins of Canada's largest school board, Education Director Chris Spence has brought his trademark focus on boys. The one-time football player says he wants the board to launch a number of single-sex classes, boy-friendly programs, and an all-male alternative school to try to boost male learning and cut boys' dropout rates. How would, in your view, single-sex classrooms for boys result in better educational outcomes for boys?
Well, I think it goes back to my belief that the traditional unisex approach to child development is seriously flawed. It's not the boy culture that's flawed, it's how we manage it. Why not provide a customized learning environment for boys, one in which they will thrive? They thrive in environments in which there's hands-on opportunities for them to learn.
Yet you know some people are going to be pretty uncomfortable with that, though, and you'd say what to them about that?
I'd say this is about choice. You know, this isn't about forcing anybody to be in an environment that they're not going to be comfortable in. I would say to them, in most situations, the co-ed environment works and has been successful, but there are, a number of our students that I think would thrive in this kind of environment.
Which students in particular?
Well, students that, as I say, would thrive, a hands-on, active learning experience.
But are they from a particular ethnic background, or are they particular makeup, or do they have a particular personality? That's what I'm getting at.
Well, I think, a good question to ask is which boys are we talking about? Because boys are not a homogeneous group. And I think as you start to, go down a little deeper into the data, there's just concern. I mean, when we look at who we suspend, who's underachieving, and we start to take a look at some of the variables, we know that some of these boys are living in environments in which there's no, significant male role model for them. Boys, socioeconomic status is also a significant part of this. I mean, I'm not trying to profile or demonize boys in any way, shape, or form. All I want to say is that, boys, a significant amount of these boys will thrive in a different kind of customized learning experience for them. So you see, I taught an all-boys grade 6 class, so I'm coming from that perspective as well. And, the students in that class will tell you it was probably one of the best years of learning that they ever had. So you try to scale that up. We've been doing the Boys to Men mentoring program, and now we're saying, okay, well, what about a school that would be customized to their needs?
Here's how the New York Times reported on this last year. They wrote, the most concrete findings from the research on single-sex schools comes from the studies of Catholic schools, and suggest that while single-sex schools may not have much of an impact on the educational achievement of white, middle-class boys, they do measurably benefit poor and minority students. There are two prevailing theories to explain this. One is that single-sex schools are indeed better at providing kids with a positive sense of themselves. The other is that in order to end up in a single-sex classroom, you need to have a parent who has made what educators call a, quote, pro-academic choice. You need a parent who at least cares enough to read the notices sent home and go through the process of making a choice, any choice. It sounds from this that this is nothing that's going to be applied across the board, right? This is something that will be targeted to groups that need it the most?
Absolutely, but I think the point there is it's about choice. And that's what we want to do. We want to pilot this. We already have a number of single gender classes throughout the district. And, nobody forces any student to go into that. What we do is we have consultations with the community, with the parents, with the staff. And then, they can make an informed decision about an environment that's going to be best for their sons and daughters. It's no different than some of the great work that we are having. Last week I was at the Etobicoke School for Arts, an amazing school with, you know, a real personalized learning experience for those kids. They are thriving because they're absolutely engaged, because it's personalized learning based on what their passion, what their interests are.
It's personalized, but it's both genders together. And some have made the observation that when these kids graduate, they are going to be graduating into a world where they're going to have to work with women, be with women, you know, and are they somehow going to be less skilled at that because they haven't had enough exposure to the opposite sex?
I would say absolutely not. You know, students spend 6 hours a day in our schools, you know, 10 months out of the year. That leaves a whole lot of other time out there in the community, interacting with friends and family to do exactly what you're talking about. When you take a look at, you know, some of the students that have graduated from all-boy classes, all-boy schools, I think the list is very impressive.
Here's something else that some have observed. The Toronto Board has got an Afrocentric school, a First Nations elementary school, an all-girls school, a classroom for gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgendered students, and some will be asking whether or not the school board, which is supposed to, I guess in theory, put everybody together so that everybody learns about everybody else and gets along, or is this balkanizing the school board? That's the concern.
Well, you know what? For me, it's about equity, and equity being equal access to the benefits our system has to offer, but that may require differentiated treatment. You know, when you talk about the Toronto District School Board, the largest, most diverse school board in the country, we have students with unique learning needs, and not all students learn in the same way at the same rate. So some groups of learners should be able to have an opportunity, a choice opportunity, to get what they need to be successful. This is about equity to me.
So one size isn't going to fit all.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let's talk report cards. Parents have been complaining for years that the report card that comes home is just impossible to understand.
Right.
What are you doing about that?
Well, you know, we just had a board motion around, you know, us taking a look at those board report cards and refining the comments so that they're more reader friendly to the students and to the parents themselves. And that should take effect in 2011 or 2010, 2011, I believe, is when we're going to first launch that. And also the ministry is going through some revisions, and we're contributing to that as well. And you know, at the end of the day, you want parents to feel like, you know, they're getting added value. They understand what's being said about their son or daughter in terms of their progress. So it's a step we're going to take and embrace and try to do all we can to meet the needs of our parents.
Do you think the report cards are hard to read?
Well, I'm so immersed in it right now that it's sometimes difficult to be objective. I mean, I've got, you know, 2 kids in the system, and I get report cards, and, you know, I understand it because I think I'm part of the system.
Got it. You are also looking apparently into the feasibility of translating some of the report cards into other languages besides English for those parents for whom English is not a first language. Is this a good idea? Well,
you know what? The whole thing that we're really trying to do here is provide translation. So when parents come to the report card evening in which they interact with the teacher, we'll have translators on premises to support and to help. You know, in terms of trying to translate each and every report card, I mean, that's a mammoth task, and I'm not sure that's exactly where we intend to go.
Okay, one more thing on this. I guess teachers often complain that when they either put information in the backpack of the kids to go home with, it doesn't get read, and the number of teachers who find parents actually showing up for those parent-teacher interviews is very small. So if you had to scale it, what's more important? Getting the report card issue right, or getting more parents to actually show up to these parent-teacher meetings and engage in their kids' education?
Well, you know, first of all, I don't think the report card can be sort of a one-off. It has to be ongoing communication throughout the whole year. And really, when parents get that report card, there should be no surprises. So you want to make sure that you have that ongoing communication. And, you know, teachers are for the most part, very accessible, you know, now with, you know, email, you know, phone conversations, parents dropping in. So I think that's the most important thing, is that we continue to have that open communication with our parents.
Do you think it's a problem right now?
It must be. It must be a problem because, you know, we've heard from the community, and we've got a motion that we're, you know, going to make some changes. And I say it's difficult sometimes for me, being so immersed in it on a day-to-day basis. But, you know, we're about meeting the needs of our parents, and if it's an issue, we're going to deal with it.
School closings. This has been around forever, this issue.
Yeah.
The board has, what is it, about 100 half-empty schools in Toronto?
Approximately, yeah.
What do you plan to do about this?
Well, we've just went to board on October the 28th, and we're going to be launching 8 ARCs, accommodation review committees, which are mandated by the ministry anytime you're considering closures or consolidations. So we're going to get going on that. And again, for us, it's about providing the best possible environment for our students. Some of those schools that are half empty, half the resources. You're not able to provide the kind of programming that we know that all kids deserve and need to be successful.
Yeah, but here's what the Globe and Mail said, and I know you know all about this, but we're going to go through this anyway. Simply put, school closings mean war. They pit parents, trustees, teachers, students, alumni, and neighbors against one another in a battle involving the finagling of budgets, a tangle of bus routes, the anxiety of dislocation, and the implacability of school pride. Batten down the hatches, Toronto. If the rest of the country is any indication, the next few years will be marked by divisive community meetings, door-to-door flyer campaigns, fundraisers, protests, and tearful pleas for clemency. And what does the new Director of Education plan to do about all of those inevitabilities when they happen?
Well, the new director is hoping to get some quick wins here and to demonstrate to our community that, A, we want to be transparent, B, we want to work with them, and C, that there's going to be a community get when this is all said and done. At the end of the day, if we can demonstrate to our communities that the environment that these students will be going to is going to be enhanced, then I think everybody wins. And I understand, anytime you talk about closures and consolidations, it is painful, and there's no doubt about it. But we're going to be transparent. We're going to put the information on the table. We're going to be engaged in these thoughtful, informative conversations. But again, it's all about students and trying to get the best learning environments for them. In Hamilton, we were really fortunate because
you were the director there before.
I was, yes. And we were able to build 4 brand new schools in downtown Hamilton, which helped to revitalize the downtown, but also really demonstrated to the community, what could be, what is possible. And when parents walk through a brand new school and see those kind of learning environments, upgraded, technology, green, they say, every kid deserves it. And it's a tough, path to get there. But you know what? We don't have a choice.
Well, you say you don't have a choice, but, okay, transparency is all well and good. Everybody's in favor of transparency. But nobody cares, my hunch is, nobody cares about transparency to a decision that they don't agree with.
Right.
Even if they see that you got there in a completely transparent way, they usually say at the end of the day, you're going to hurt our neighborhood by closing down this school. I don't care that it's only half full.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that argument?
Well, part of that is the art committee is made up from people from the community, public officials, municipal leaders, and they go through a series of meetings, and they make a recommendation, and then it goes to the Board of Trustees, and they have the ultimate decision-making power on whether a school, closes or whether it's consolidated. I understand. I know this is a tough thing, but
it's not that it's tough. It's emotional.
It is.
And so the facts may be on your side, but people are not approaching this thing rationally, quote unquote. They're
Right.
approaching it emotionally.
Right.
It cuts at the heart of their neighborhood. So how do you convince them that it's in their interest to close down a school that they desperately want open?
Well, I think you go back to the students, and in some of those schools, students aren't getting the programs that they deserve, and that's certainly going to be our platform. Our messaging is that this is about students and providing the best learning environments for them. And you're right, it's emotional, it's difficult, but again, if we can be the TDSB, the Show Me board, that we can show communities what the end result is. We're talking about full service schools as one of the community gets. So communities will have more access to those schools. I mean, there's a number of things that we can do, but there's also some tough decisions that we're going to have to make along the way. But we're engaging the community along this. An ARC doesn't always mean that the school is going to get closed.
Okay, you said a few moments ago that what we need to do is show some quick wins.
Yeah.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, that means, being able to put ourselves in a position where we can reinvest in one of our schools, and parents and communities see what the end result is.
But that's not quick. That takes a couple of years, doesn't it?
2011, by the time all is said and done. But when you're talking about closures and consolidations, that's moving at a pace is about as quick as you can go.
You know this issue has been around for years,
Yes.
right? The issue of having to close, the declining enrollment,
Yes.
and therefore you don't need as many schools, and too many of them are half full, and so on. Not many boards that I've been able to see have wanted to face this issue. Usually in the end, parents make a lot of noise and boards back down.
Yeah.
Why would it be any different this time?
Well, you know, I started on July the 2nd, and one of the things that I did as part of my entry plan was what I've referred to as listen, learn, and lead. And I had over 200 meetings, and I talked to, you know, every trustee, senior staff, internal, external stakeholders. And this is one of the things that they told me that needed to happen. They said, you know, we've got an issue here that has to be confronted head on. And they would ask me, they look me in the eyes, do you have the courage to do it? And I said, you know what, this is going to be really challenging. It's going to be emotional, but it's something that we're going to confront head on. And we're going to do our homework, and we're going to work with our community, and we're going to make sure that they're informed, and we're going to work together, again, with the end result of trying to create great learning environments for our students.
But you've got the job, right? How long do you have the job for?
Been on the job for about 100 days.
But I mean, how long do you have it for? You don't sign like a 3-year contract, right?
4 years.
4-year contract?
4-year contract.
Okay, but these guys got to go get reelected, so they can. The parents can scream all they want at you, and you know you're here for the full 4-year term.
Right.
These guys, they don't get reelected. That's the end of it. Isn't that? Are they not more trustees? I'm saying, are they not more kind of attuned to the which way the political wind is blowing, and therefore maybe won't be your ally in this at the end of the day?
Yeah, and you know, part of you know, us putting together a strategy around this was working very closely with our trustees, very well aware of the political climate that they're operating in. But part of this is, you know, first of all, is to provide the great learning environments for kids, and the other part is to be, you know, fiscally responsible. We're a board that, you know, has some budget challenges, and we know that this can help us to address some of those challenges that we have, because a lot of this space is unfunded.
One more thing on this, Chris, and that is there's a concern that the neediest neighborhoods have a disproportionate number of schools that are slated for closing.
Right.
Is that true?
Well, you know, when you look at it on the surface, you know, there may be some merit to that. But here's what I would say is that those neighborhoods are the ones that need to be served the most, and they need to be served the quickest. So it would make sense to me that we would try to put ourselves in a position, and again, that's equity, going and trying to support those communities, because again, and I'm real sincere, and I know the board is as well, about creating learning environments in which all kids can thrive in. So those are the communities that we're going to try and do the most in right away.
Let's talk money. Here's a letter to the editor in the Globe and Mail from John Campbell, your chair of the board for the school board. Due to the latest budget, the Toronto District School Board will now have to absorb $16 million in specific budget line cuts to textbooks, computers, and the professional development of teachers. More troubling is a $2 million cut to support special needs children and a $4.8 million, that's 3.8% cut, in learning opportunity funds used for educational assistance, school safety measures, social workers, and outdoor education. No one likes to cut, but it looks like it's happening. What are you doing to deal with those cuts?
Well, you know, started July the 2nd. We've got a balanced budget right now, and I know that staff and trustees have worked really hard. So one of the things that we've started, you know, just this past week, is start working on a multi-year forecasting of the budget, so that we can be in a position to again have some informed dialogue on how we move forward and what some of the challenges are going to be. And certainly, you know, part of the work that we're doing with our capital strategy is part of, you know, trying to address some of those challenges that we may be forecasting.
Here's another follow-up on money. Marcus G. writes in the Globe and Mail, click on the Toronto section at sunshineonschools.ca, and you find, for example, that the board's spending exceeded its revenues for the past 3 years. And the Toronto District School Board spends about $10,900 per student per year, compared with about $9,700 in the Hamilton Public Board and the provincial average of $10,650. Or you find that 80% of TDSB students pass the grade 10 literacy test, compared with the provincial average of 84% and a high of 92% in the Halton Catholic Board. So the question is, are you overspending and under-delivering?
No.
In Toronto?
No.
Those numbers would suggest that, don't
no,
they?
No, but you know what? I don't think it's fair to compare, to boards of education. Toronto is a unique board with diverse learning needs. And all you have to do is walk through our schools, into our classrooms, and you can see that teachers, principals, staff, support staff are all working hard to meet the needs of the students that we have. So I don't agree with that at all.
But the uniqueness of the students in the Toronto board, why would that make them, on average, almost more than $1,000 per student more expensive to educate?
Well, because, with the uniqueness becomes, various learning needs, whether they're, language or special needs or what have you, and that all gets factored into it as well. That's one of the things that, I find very unique about Toronto is, we have such great diversity, and with diversity comes, great strength and great opportunity. But certainly it does present some challenges as well in trying to meet the needs of 260,000 students that we have.
But you were in the Hamilton board, right?
Yes.
Hamilton's a pretty multicultural place as well. They seem to be educating their students for less money than what it costs in Toronto, with a relatively multicultural population and a lot of the same issues around poverty that we have in Toronto. Why would it be cheaper in Hamilton than in Toronto?
Well, again, I don't think you can compare the two boards. And yes, Hamilton does have an element of diversity and does have some socioeconomic issues. But again, I think the challenges of Toronto are just so unique, and that requires unique kind of learning opportunities and experiences.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I do know you say that, and I know you believe it. But you have to know that everybody watching this program outside Toronto has had it up to here with Toronto saying, oh, we're unique, we're different, we're special, we have all sorts of different criteria here, we can't be compared to everybody else. I wonder if you could speak to those people and tell them why you think the children who are being educated in the Toronto system, need $1,200 per student more than Hamilton does, and more than many other boards as well.
Well, you know what? I would suggest you gotta come and walk through our schools. And
what would we see?
Well, you would see such a mosaic of students and the opportunities and experience that we're trying to provide them to level the playing field. And it really goes back to the whole argument around equity, which may mean differentiated treatment. I think we're doing all we can to meet the needs of each and every student, and they're just unique.
You well remember Julian Falconer, who was tasked with writing a report on school violence. He did so. He made many recommendations. With money being as tight as it is, do you think you can really make our schools safer?
I do. I really do. And again, we've set some ambitious, smart goals about trying to change the culture in some of our schools, and we're embracing restorative justice practices, character education, and I think what really speaks volumes to our commitment to creating these safe learning environments is that we now have a senior staff superintendent who is the superintendent of caring and safe schools. We recently hired a coordinator around gender-based violence. So we are, trying to put our money where our mouth is and trying to create, safe learning environments. And safe schools are a shared responsibility. Schools really are microcosms of what's going on in society. So all of those issues come into the schools. And again, we're doing all that we can to create those kind of environments. And I say that to you not only as a director, but also as a parent who has two children in the system, and I know when I send them to school every day, first and foremost is I want them to be safe.
How old are they?
6 and 10.
Do you ever have any qualms when you send them out to school at the beginning of the day about how safe they will be in the school they're going to?
None whatsoever. None.
You never worry about it?
No. I drop them off and, wish them well for the day and believe that they're going to be safe and know that that school that they're at is going to be working hard to create that environment for all students in the school.
You have, just finally, taken on a very hard job. This is a job where you have to be accountable to trustees and to parents and to students and to media and to the province and to City Hall, and I don't think that's an exhaustive list. There's probably more things on the list. So, why does anybody want this job?
For me, it's about influence. you start out as a classroom teacher and you influence 20 to 30 students. Then you get an opportunity as a school leader, and as I said, the walls of your classroom expand to include a whole school. And now, I mean, to think that I have an opportunity to influence, 250 to 60,000 students who are the future of this city, this province, and this world is, I think, just an amazing opportunity.
And we are grateful you came into TVO tonight to talk to us about it. Chris Spence, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.